My mama always said that updates from Bethesda are like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Sometimes it's chocolate. Sometimes it's a tick or rad roach. And sometimes it's a piece of radstag poop. But I suppose that if you know you might get radstag poop, well, getting a tick or rad roach is good by comparison. What's up, Wastelanders? I'm Oscapt.
And I'm Noodle Pants.
And unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably seen all the videos about the upcoming update for Season 18 and Milepost Zero that's set to land on September 3rd.
There's a lot of stuff coming, and we've been holding out on making a video until the drop date got a little bit closer. While there's no guarantee that what's live on the PTS server today will make it into the final release, the drop date is only 2.5 weeks away from today.
That's right, and that's not very much time at all in software development terms. Therefore, what's out there now is probably going to be what we get live, and Nuka Knights agrees. He posted an article on his site today that sums up everything that he thinks will be in the new update, and we want to bring it to you with our own thoughts and commentary.
Where do you want to start?
Let's jump right into the main attraction of Season 18, the Milepost Zero Caravan Company.
For sure. Everything kicks off with a quest called A Bump in the Road, which you'll automatically receive when you log in after the update. This quest will take you straight to Milepost Zero, located down south in Skyline Valley.
When you arrive, you'll enter an instance where you'll meet Marley, who's essentially running the show at your new caravan company. Marley's the one who will help you manage and process your deliveries.
But Marley's not working alone. She'll introduce you to a bunch of other key characters like Josie, the Brahmin tamer, Alex, the decorator, Ineki, the import vendor, Theodore, the ammo dealer, and Wendy, the cryptid hunter. Though Wendy's not available right now.
Each of these folks plays a different role in your operation. But before we get into what they do, let's talk about the new currency, supplies.
You'll earn supplies by taking part in Caravan Skyline Drive events. These events are similar to the free-range ones where you escort a Brahmin through a dangerous area. Depending on the delivery size, you can earn 10, 25, or 50 supplies.
And since these events are public, other players can jump in to help out, and everyone who participates earns supplies once the event wraps up.
Once you've collected enough supplies, you can use them to hire and upgrade your team. Each team member can be upgraded twice, which unlocks new items, quests, and special abilities.
Take Josie, for instance. She can enhance your Brahmins with new abilities like boosting their speed. Alex, on the other hand, can revamp the look of your Milepost Zero base and even hunt down collectibles like bobbleheads and magazines.
And then there's Ineki, your go-to for various blueprints, including some new outfits. But Theodore is the real standout.
Absolutely. Theodore handles ammo, but if you upgrade him to level 2, he'll give you a quest in Vault 63 where you can snag the new V63 Laser Carbine rifle. Upgrade him to level 3, and he'll offer mods for that rifle as blueprints. So if you're eyeing that new weapon, Theodore's your guy, and it makes sense to hire and upgrade him first.
This system really adds a new layer of depth to the game. You're not just completing events, you're building up a unique team and managing your own caravan company. I can't wait to see how this evolves.
Same here. It's a refreshing change from the usual grind and gives us more to aim for beyond just leveling up. I hope this is just the start of some new and innovative game mechanics.
It also explains why so much of what we've seen about Season 18 rewards are built around Blue Ridge Caravan Company.
Next up, we have a lot of changes around legendary scrip, crafting, and how legendary modules are being handled in events.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover here. So let's kick it off with an increase in the legendary scrip cap. It's going up to 11,000.
That's because Bethesda is completely revamping the legendary crafting system. Previously, everything was based on RNG, which, for my dad, who's watching, means random number generation, which basically meant that the effects on your gear were left up to chance. If you didn't get the effect you wanted, you had to re-roll it again and again and again, and just hope that eventually it showed up.
But even when it did, you might have only gotten one of the effects you wanted. But you were forced to keep the other two just because the odds of getting all three, or even 2 out of 3 to line up, were next to impossible.
Hence the elusive God Roll weapon. How many hundreds of times did people have to roll those just to get what they wanted? It's soul-crushing and expensive.
But now, that's getting a big shakeup. Legendary cores are being phased out and converted into legendary scrip at a 1-to-1 rate, which explains the increased cap. 5,000 from the old core max and 6,000 from regular scrip.
With legendary cores gone, the crafting system is shifting focus. You'll now mainly use legendary scrip, legendary modules, and the new legendary mods. The legendary modules are now considered junk items, so if you're Fallout first, you can stash them in your scrap box. But even if you're not, their weight has been reduced significantly. Though, at the moment, the Scrap Rat Backpack mod doesn't help with weight reduction. Hopefully, that'll be addressed soon.
These legendary mods are a huge deal. They let you customize your gear with specific effects like bloodied or unyielding, and they're tradable, adding a whole new level of flexibility to how you set up your builds.
You can snag these mods with about a 1.5% chance when you scrap legendary weapons at workbenches. Plus, there's also a chance to learn standard mods, and even a 1% chance to pick up the plan for a legendary mod, all from just scrapping stuff.
And the really cool part, the chance applies to each star of the weapon you scrap. So if you're breaking down a 3-star item, you could potentially get 3 mods or learn 3 different plans. The RNG is still there, but it's not working against you. However, now you have to decide if you're going to scrap those legendaries for scrip or for a minuscule chance to learn something from them.
Regardless of how you learn the plan, once you have it, you can craft these legendary mods using your legendary scrip and a few other materials at the workbench. Imagine converting a 3-star handmade rifle into a bloodied version with exploding bullets and a fast reload. That's the sort of thing that's now possible.
For sure. But what about the Blue Moon weapons, like My Holy Fire or the Elder's Mark?
Initially, you couldn't re-roll the effects of these weapons on the PTS, and Bethesda said re-rolling them wasn't ever originally intended. But after feedback from the community, and I say feedback in air quotes, they've decided to let us modify these weapons as well.
That's fantastic news for anyone who loves these weapons, but wants more control over their build. It's also great to see Bethesda actually back off from just steamrolling people. It's one thing to never have something, but it's another to have it taken away. No one likes that. Now, with the new crafting system, we've got even more options to tweak our gear.
But here's the catch. You're going to need a lot more legendary modules. Bethesda has replaced legendary cores with legendary modules in event rewards, but the exchange isn't one-to-one.
Right. For instance, in events where you used to get 8 legendary cores, like a Colossal Problem or Project Paradise, you're now only getting 5 legendary modules.
And in other events like Scorched Earth, Neurological Warfare, and Seismic Activity, it's dropped to just 2 legendary modules instead of 5 cores. Most public events will now yield between 1 and 3 legendary modules depending on the event.
It's definitely a trade-off. We're getting fewer modules, but with the new crafting system, hopefully, we won't need to grind as much to get exactly what we want.
That's the idea, at least. And for daily ops and events like Meat Week and Fasnacht, you'll be able to earn 1 to 3 legendary modules if you perform well.
I always perform well.
Yes, you do.
So, managing your legendary resources is going to be a bigger part of Season 18. But with more control over crafting, the grind should feel a little more rewarding.
Agreed. Let's keep going. There's plenty more to cover. The V63 Laser Carbine is a new automatic energy rifle that you can get through the quest Unconventional Weaponry, which Theodore gives you after upgrading him in the Milepost Zero Caravan Company.
And if you upgrade Theodore again, he'll also have the mods for it. This weapon is tradable and can be crafted with legendary effects, so you can customize it with mods, including exploding bullets.
Let's go over some of the key features of this weapon. First off, it has a high action point cost, making it pretty tough to use in VATS, kind of like the Enclave plasma rifle. You could make it work with a lot of canned coffee and buffs, but it's not really ideal.
It's also really loud, so stealth players will need to keep their distance to avoid losing their sneak bonuses. It uses fusion cells for ammo, which is pretty standard for energy weapons.
But here's the interesting part. The V63 Laser Carbine has a unique overheating mechanism. When the weapon reaches 75% overheat, it doubles its damage output. Plus, it has almost no recoil, so you can stay accurate even with automatic fire.
You can keep an eye on the overheating with a bar at the bottom right of your screen. And there's also an indicator on the back of the weapon. But from what people have tested on the PTS, keeping it overheated against regular enemies can be a bit challenging.
That's why Nuke and Knights recommends that you build this weapon as a quad instead of bloodied. This way you can maintain the overheating longer, which maximizes your damage over time, especially against tougher bosses.
The V63 Laser Carbine seems perfect for events where VATS isn't as effective, like Moonshine Jamboree, or Neurological Warfare, or Seismic Activity. It's also a great option for power armor users who don't rely on stealth and find VATS tricky.
It sounds cool. I'm curious to try out the new overheating mechanic and also to see how it performs from a distance. I normally play with VATS, but I'd be willing to drop that if this weapon is as impressive as it sounds. Let's dive into the new explosive energy weapons. With the updated legendary crafting system, some restrictions have been lifted, and now energy weapons can once again have exploding projectiles. That's crazy.
It is. This change applies to laser and plasma rifles, also pistols, all heavy energy weapons, and even the pepper shaker. But keep in mind, it doesn't work on flamers, plasma flamers, cremators, or the cryolator. Even though on the PTS, those mods can still be applied. Bethesda is probably going to pull that before the release. We'll have to see.
And just so everyone's clear, this doesn't mean the old legacy weapons are coming back. The explosive bullet effect has been totally revamped. Every weapon with this effect now gets a flat 20% bonus from the explosion, no matter how the projectiles are split.
That's a big shift from how things used to be. The old damage calculations were kind of a mess and often made those weapons overpowered. The new system is much more balanced, bringing explosive energy weapons in line with ballistic ones.
So now an explosive Gatling plasma is on par with an explosive 50 caliber machine gun, and a laser gun with explosive rounds compares to an explosive handmade minus the noise.
But the real standout here has to be the Gauss minigun. Its built-in explosive bonus has been bumped up to 20%, and it can also roll with the legendary explosive effect. That means that you can get a 40% explosive bonus on it.
Finally, the Gauss minigun is getting the boost that it deserves. It's been one of the toughest heavy weapons to obtain, and it's about time that it delivered more power. Based on the PTS test in the article, it's outperforming all the other explosive energy weapons, even when it had a 35% bonus.
Absolutely. If you're into heavy weapons, the Gauss minigun is definitely going to be a star in Season 18.
Maybe that's why we haven't seen a special Season 18 weapon yet.
Maybe. Or maybe Bethesda is just waiting to surprise us.
Surprise!
The next item is one that I'm really excited about. It's called Best Builds, and it lets players submit their camp for others to visit, explore, and rate. Once you submit your camp, it will randomly appear in different worlds every hour. The best part is, your camp can be featured even if you're not online or in the same world.
That's right, but it also comes with some quirks. For example, if your camp is highlighted as a best build in another world, your vending machines might not function if you're not online. Plus, if someone else's best build is occupying your camp spot, you might run into trouble when trying to set it up.
Yeah, not being able to submit your camp because someone else's camp was already in the same area is a bit wonky. Hopefully that only affects camps submitted to the system, and maybe Bethesda can give us a way to check if a location has already been submitted.
I wonder how long your camp stays up as a submission. I mean, I can see this getting crowded since there are millions of players and not millions of places to put a camp. The prime locations in Appalachia are going to be saturated, and if camps stay in the best build system forever, then pretty soon no one's going to be able to submit anything new.
That's something they'll figure out, I'm sure. Stop raining on my parade.
I'm sorry. Continue.
When your camp is featured, it shows up on the map with a blue marker. You can see the name the owner gave it using keywords and check out some preview images before deciding to visit.
If you like what you see, you can fast travel to the camp like normal, with the travel cost depending on distance and perks and all of that. It's not for free. But once there, you can give the camp a like, but only if you're actually at the location. There's no liking camps just from the preview screen.
And if you want to submit your own camp as a best build, it's easy to do right from the camp menu. Just choose the Manage Best Build option, pick your keywords, take some photos using photo mode, and show off what makes your camp unique.
The keyword selection is pretty broad, so it might take a bit to find the perfect ones.
Like a YouTube video.
Like a YouTube video. But once everything is set, you can submit your camp, and then you can update it anytime you want without losing any likes.
Like tear it down and rebuild it?
Allegedly.
That sounds like a fantastic way to get your camp noticed, and maybe even draw in some new friends or community members. Plus, it adds a fresh layer of interaction, letting players share their best creations with everyone in Fallout 76.
If your camp gets enough likes, it could become one of the top-rated best builds, earning you some serious bragging rights. So if you've put a lot of effort into your camp, this is your moment to shine. Next up, let's talk about some core changes to perks in Season 18. First, all perk effects will now be listed directly in your Pip-Boy. So for instance, if you've got the Commando perks at 3 stars, you'll clearly see the 20% damage boost for automatic rifles. This should make it way easier to track what your perks are actually doing.
That's a great quality of life update. But wait, there's more. A few perks have been tweaked to scale better with your endurance stat. Let's start with the Thirst Quencher.
Thirst Quencher now boosts your maximum action points based on your endurance. So if you crank up your endurance through gear, effects, and special adjustments, you could hit 500 AP or more. That means you can stay in VATS for days.
That's a big deal for VATS users. Also, the AP regeneration speed doesn't change, so you can refill those huge AP reserves just as quickly.
Next is Iron Stomach, which now increases your damage resistance based on endurance. It's not the flashiest perk, but it's useful if you're looking to toughen up a bit.
Yeah, that's a nice little boost, though probably not hugely significant. Then there's Natural Resistance, which boosts your non-physical resistance, like energy resistance, also tied to your endurance.
Again, it's not the most exciting perk, but it adds a bit more survivability if you're stacking endurance. The Vaccinated perk has been tweaked too, now increasing your disease resistance based on endurance.
These updates definitely make endurance more valuable, especially for tanky builds. But like you said, they're not going to dramatically alter the meta.
And finally, there's Grenadier. The perk itself hasn't changed, but now explosions scale to double the radius as originally intended. So if you're using an explosives build, you're definitely going to feel the difference.
Overall, these changes are subtle but make endurance a more attractive stat if you're looking to fine-tune your character's build. I think it's going to bring these lesser used cards back into the game, and people will find creative ways to use them that none of us are expecting.
There are also some updates to legendary effects, starting with the Medics effect. It's been completely revamped. Instead of healing your group when you land critical hits, it now heals the friendly target that you shoot by 5% per hit.
So it's like using a flame weapon with a friendly fire perk, but now you can do it without the perk. And it works with any weapon. This could be a real boost in team play, especially during those intense events.
Absolutely. I can see this being a lifesaver, pun intended, when you're trying to keep your team alive in the middle of a tough battle. Next, let's talk about the new 3rd star effects that boost your special stats.
Now you can get all the special stats, strength, perception, endurance, charisma, intelligence, agility, and luck, as bonus mods on both weapons and armor. For weapons, you can get a +3 boost to each special, and for armor, it's +2.
This really opens up a lot of build possibilities. For instance, with these new mods, you could push your intelligence up to around 90 for those XP farming runs in West Tech. But keep in mind, each special caps out at 100, so you'll eventually hit the limit.
These mods are going to be super interesting when paired with the newly updated perks, like the Thirst Quencher. You'll be able to fine-tune your character's stats even more to fit your playstyle.
It's going to be a lot of fun experimenting with these new options and seeing how they change up different builds. It's like getting per stat effects from Unyielding without being bloodied. But since Unyielding is a 1-star effect, maybe you could apply this to Endurance and also use Unyielding to get a full spectrum special boost. Players who love to min-max their characters are going to have a field day with this. Now here's something that we've talked about before. On the PTS, they've expanded the protected zone where you can't drop nukes. The new zone even covers Helvetia, which means no more nuking Fasnacht.
That's a pretty big deal, especially for those who use nukes to deal with AFK players. With this update, it's going to be a lot tougher to stop people from just sitting there doing nothing.
It really makes you wonder if Bethesda should consider adding some AFK detection to penalize those players. It's frustrating when someone just camps out and doesn't contribute.
You AFK?
Well, yeah, but only because they allow it. I mean, if they didn't allow it, I wouldn't do it.
Without the option to nuke Helvetia, the response to AFKers is limited. You can try luring enemies into Helvetia to handle them, but that's not always the easiest and most effective strategy.
There's always our bloatfly syringer method. It's a bit of a hack, but it's been pretty effective at spawning a bloatfly to deal with AFK players. But yet, it's not as straightforward as just dropping a nuke.
True, it's a creative workaround, but it's not perfect. Bethesda really needs to think about how these changes impact everyone, and maybe look into some sort of AFK detection to keep events fair.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the community adjusts to this change, but I agree. Bethesda could definitely do more to address the underlying issue. The people who do AFK don't have nearly as strong of an argument for continuing to do it as those people who are opposed to it. Now here's some news that got us both excited. Have you ever missed those vending machine sales because the notification in the top corner disappeared so fast?
Yes, finally, they're fixing that. Bethesda is adding a Vending History menu to your camp symbol on the map. That's great!
Now you'll be able to see a detailed list of all of your sales. What sold, how much it sold for, and who bought it. No more guessing or missing out on what's hot in your camp.
You'll find this new option right at the top left of the map in the camp slot menu. It's a little weird that it's by camp location, though. Maybe you can figure out if certain items can sell better at one location than at another. I don't know.
On the one hand, you could figure out if an item sold just by looking in your inventory, but for example, if you have multiple items and you only put one up for sale, this will make your vending machine maintenance chores easier to do each day. You can just see that it's sold, and then you know to go and add another one.
Exactly. This is going to make camp management a whole lot smoother. I can't wait to start using this feature.
Next up, we've got some changes to the railway rifle, which is a favorite among commando players in Fallout 76. Bethesda has made a few adjustments on the PTS that might surprise some people.
Here's what's new. The base speed of the railway rifle has been reduced, meaning it fires a bit slower now. But on the flip side, the damage per shot has been increased. So while it's not firing as fast, each shot hits harder.
That's what she said.
Really?
Yes. The prime and standard receivers have also been tweaked. For instance, the 25% increased weapon speed effect now gives a 14.4% speed boost instead of the full 25% that it used to. That's just weird.
And if you're using the automatic receiver, the speed has been dropped by about 17.5%. Even with the plus 25% weapon speed effect, it's slower than before. But the difference isn't as huge as it might sound.
So what does this mean in practice? Well, in Nuke Knight's tests, the slower rate of fire is definitely noticeable, but with the increased damage per shot, the overall performance is pretty close to what we're used to.
Yeah, it might not be as effective against bosses as it used to be, but the railway rifle is still a strong choice. We'll have to see how it holds up in a live game, but for most scenarios, it should still get the job done.
That's what she said.
Oh my god, not again.
Now let's talk about some major changes coming to enemy resistances, health, and how critical hits work in VATS. These updates are going to shake things up a bit.
So here's what's happening. They've completely removed the damage reduction that some bosses had, like the Scorched Beast Queen, who used to reduce incoming damage by 70%. To balance that out, they've significantly increased the health of these enemies.
For example, the Scorched Beast Queen's health has more than tripled, and Earl's health has increased by 400%. The idea is to make normal hits and critical hits more balanced. Before, only critical hits could bypass those heavy damage reductions, but now all hits are more evenly impactful.
That's right. While critical builds will still do more damage than non-critical ones, the gap has been closed a bit. You'll still get 2 to 4 times the DPS with criticals, but the days of focusing only on crits are over. You'll need to start thinking about stacking basic damage buffs and multipliers like Adrenaline, Psychotats, and Tenderizer.
And sadly, for those who loved melting Earl in just 18 seconds, well, that's no longer going to be possible. I think Angry Turtle is going to be a little bit disappointed.
Aww. Yeah, those crazy fast solo kills are going to be a thing of the past. but it's going to make boss fights more challenging and hopefully more rewarding for everyone.
I like that this is going to force people to start thinking about how buffs work. It might be a precursor to the introduction of buffs and brews to the game across all platforms. Shout out to Kat from theduchessflame.com for all her hard work. And speaking of buffs, we've got some serious buffs coming to both the Stranglerheart Power Armor and the Thorn Armor. Let's break it down.
Absolutely. Starting with the Stranglerheart Power Armor, the passive area of effect poison damage has been cranked up from 4 to 20 poison per pulse. That's a massive 800% increase after factoring in poison resistance.
And that's not all. Semi-automatic and single-shot weapons now deal 125 poison damage over 5 seconds, up from just 30 over 3 seconds. That's a 482% increase after poison resistance.
Automatic weapons got a boost too, now dealing 100 poison damage over 5 seconds, compared to the previous 30 over 3 seconds. That's a 329% increase. And shotguns? They're the big winners here. They'll now deal 240 poison damage over 6 seconds, up from just 6 damage per bullet over 3 seconds. That's a whopping 1,392% increase after poison resistance.
These changes are going to make the Stranglerheart Power Armor a lot more dangerous, especially in situations where you're dealing consistent damage over time. Might be time for me to put together a Power Armor shotgun build since I already have the Stranglerheart Armor.
And speaking of damage over time, the V94 Thorn Armor is getting some love too. The on-hit damage is now 250 bleeding damage over 5 seconds, which is a 29% increase. The return damage has also been boosted to 125 bleeding damage over 5 seconds, up from 100 over 10 seconds, giving it a 75% increase.
These buffs are going to make both sets of armor way more effective in dealing damage over time, especially in those extended fights where every bit of DOT counts. Continuing down the DOT track, we've got some big changes to the elemental damage and damage over time for a lot of fire and energy weapons. Now we'll just run through it quickly here, but check out the Nuka Knights article for all the details.
Let's start with the Super Sledge Heating Coil. The DOT damage has been increased to 85 damage over 5 seconds, up from 50. That's more than double the previous damage after factoring in fire resistance.
Next, we've got the Burning Love. It now does 87 fire damage over 3 seconds, up from just 9. That's a massive increase, over 2,000% more damage over time after fire resistance, although it does come with a 20% reduction in its base physical damage.
Oh, nice. I look into that for my Archer build. The Perfect Storm is getting a boost too. While it loses 40% of its base physical damage, its fire damage has been increased to 39 over 3 seconds, up from 24. That's almost double the damage over time after fire resistance.
Laser guns with emitters or tuners are also seeing changes. They now deal 87 fire damage over 3 seconds, up from 9, which is also 2,000% more damage over time, but at a loss of about 40% of their base energy.
Similar changes are happening with ultrasight laser guns. Their damage over time is up to 78 damage over 3 seconds, also up from 9, which is an 1,800% increase. But again, you're trading off some base energy damage.
Gatling lasers are getting a smaller boost with their DOT now at 48 damage over 3 seconds, up from 9, which is about an 883% increase, and the ultrasight versions are a bit stronger with a 1,054% increase.
Plasma guns are getting a similar treatment, now doing 57 fire damage over 3 seconds, up from 9, which is about a 1,142% increase. The Enclave plasma guns are even stronger, with a 1,324% increase in damage over time.
Finally, the Pepper Shaker's laser mag now converts all its physical damage into energy, while the plasma mag shifts 40% of its physical damage into energy, which is similar to how other plasma weapons work.
These changes are going to make fire and energy weapons a lot more effective for damage over time builds, especially for those who like to stack damage over time effects.
I feel like the Cremator really brought attention to the DOT aspects of the game, and it's nice to see Bethesda give the other weapons a similar boost. I imagine that some people are going to complain about the nerfing, but personally, I like DOT when fighting groups of enemies. Like, I can imagine a Scorched getting shot, not dying, and thinking, oh hey, I'm still alive, and then dying a few seconds later. Like, they have to be surprised.
You are so weird. OSCAP, this is it. The change we've all been waiting for. Okay, maybe just me, but still, it's huge.
What is it?
They've finally done it. You can now see your ammo count in 4 digits on the screen. No more opening the Pip-Boy just to see how many rounds you actually have left.
That's actually pretty convenient, but I didn't think you'd be this excited about it.
Are you kidding? It's a game changer. No more guessing or constantly checking the Pip-Boy. Now I can see up to 9,999 rounds right there on the screen. I use a flamer, and there's a big difference between 1,200 rounds and 6,000 rounds. Seeing 999 on that screen was just never enough.
9,999 is a lot. Now, I'll give it to you that this is a nice quality of life improvement. I can see why you're so pumped.
You bet I am. This is going to make managing ammo so much easier for my flamer brothers and sisters. No more running out of fuel in the middle of the fight.
Well, this next one has me excited, though maybe not as much as the ammo counter fired you up.
Oh, tell me.
We are finally going to be able to earn score points from a repeatable after hitting rank 100. But it's not tied to XP. Instead, we're getting a new weekly repeatable challenge specifically for players at rank 100 or above.
Nice. What's the challenge?
After you hit rank 100, you'll be able to earn 300 score points for every 3 public events that you complete. That's it, public events. They happen every 20 minutes, so you could theoretically get 300 score an hour.
That's awesome. I always felt like I hit a wall once I got to rank 100. Now we can keep pushing forward, racking up those score points just by doing what we love, running public events.
Honestly, it's a smart move on Bethesda's part. You need 3,500 points per rank past rank 100, and you need to get to rank 150 before you can unlock the final bonus page. Now you could get a level for every 12 hours of gameplay or 36 events, which seems like a lot, but it's probably faster than getting 350,000 XP without grinding West Tech for the same amount of time.
I'm down for anything that keeps people logged in and playing the game. Good move, Bethesda.
There are a few final changes from the article that we should mention, but again, we'll keep it brief.
Yeah, like the new gold bullion and stamp plans. Mortimer, Samuel, and Giuseppe have some fresh options, including the pemmican collector and the headhunter scythe. These are Season 17 rewards, and it's great to see them going in as plans right away for those who didn't grind hard enough to get them from the scoreboard.
A while back, there were some changes to eviction notice on the PTS that stirred up some drama, but the good news is that those have been rolled back. Plus, all the legendary spawns are now guaranteed to be 3-star, which is a nice upgrade.
Daily Ops is also getting 2 new locations, Glass Caverns and the Atlantic City Community Center. More variety to spice up your life.
There are also a bunch of new rare rewards for the Spooky Scorched and Invaders from Beyond events. Lots of new Jackalide and Nuka Rocket plans to collect. If you want all the details, head over to the Nuka Knights article for the full breakdown. Well, Noodle, I've got to say, I'm actually excited about what's coming in Season 18. After going through all these changes and additions, it feels like Bethesda is really showing the game the attention it deserves.
I agree. Even if the season rewards end up being a bit of a letdown, like we initially thought about Season 17, I think all these updates are more than enough to make up for it. And hey, we warmed up to Season 17 rewards after playing for a while, so who knows?
I do want to point out, though, that if Bethesda can be relied upon for anything, it's for every release to have more bugs than a week-old Radstag corpse. If we expect that from the beginning, well then, we won't be surprised when it happens.
But we can hope that they get it right?
Absolutely. So, fellow Wastelanders, if you are as pumped as we are, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming content. I want to give a huge thanks to Nuka Knights and to all the data miners out there for always bringing us the latest and greatest Fallout 76 info.
Yeah, definitely check out nukanites.com and head over to his YouTube channel. We'll link everything in the description below.
Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Oscapt.
And I'm Noodlepants.
And until next time,
stay safe out there, Vault Dwellers.
In the heart of West Virginia, where the shadows creep and sway, lies a land of rusted dreams, where the brave dare not stray. Appalachia, oh, it's a treacherous ride, with dangers untold and nowhere to hide.